Paperback Rocker, episode 84. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9 foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Here he is, fueled by espresso and popsicles, British rock, and Earl Grey, the Paperback Rocker.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your old survivor of Hurricane Harvey, the Paperback Rocker here. And if anyone is listening to my podcast, you may have noticed that I have been gone. I have been through hell, to hell, and back. And hell's name was Harvey. I was without power for 9 days and various other things, terrible things like plagues of gigantic mosquitoes happened and shortages of ice and gas lines and all kinds of stuff. But actually, in the big scheme of things, I came out really well. My 6x9 foot cinder block shack here in the desert. Sometimes desert, sometimes swamp, sometimes monsooned outpost. For the most part, managed fine, with the exception of one add-on antechamber in which the ceiling came down. So that's tarped off. But other than that, the biggest casualty was probably my deep freeze full of various and sundry popsicles and frozen treats, bomb pops, Eskimo pies, fudgesicles, dreamsicles, you name it. It all, I would not let that go to waste, of course. I ate all I could as they were melting. Being on ice is not sufficient for a popsicle. So, I had ice chests with meat and things that I would have gladly thrown out the meat to save the popsicles, but like I said, they don't save. So those became hummingbird food because the only birds that have been in the area, other than just today, I've seen some doves coming down. The only birds, they all got blown away. I mean, they all got destroyed. This is a phenomenon that has been spoken of at my work. And actually, I have witnessed actual just exploded birds. This one guy at work said his whole backyard was full of bird parts, and we were joking about it. And on the way out of the facility that very day, there was an exploded seagull on the ground. And I mean, like a head over here, a wing over here, not eaten by a cat, exploded. It's bizarre, but very interesting. And so anyway, waste not, want not when it comes to melted popsicles. They became hummingbird food. And some of those hummingbirds became my food in my desperation because it was Robinson Crusoe-esque here. And I had my little black assistant, Friday, a.k.a. Lucy, the Scottish Terrier. Speaking of, if anybody in my listening audience, as limited as it is, happens to have the inside track on getting full breed terriers at a good price, let me know. Reach out to me, paperbackrocker@live.com. Okay, it's time to get back to my story. Blue Whiskey. Well, it's not my story. It's the story of Stanton Wheelhouse III. But it's my story in that I wrote the thing. I think it took a couple years. Something like that. Songs don't take a couple years, and I have a new one out. It's called Gun in My Hand. And you can find it on my YouTube channel. A lyric video, which is kind of cool. You can find it Put my music in your Spotify playlist. Not just select me, Saturn Lander, as one of your favorites. You actually have to put it in a playlist and play the thing once in a while, or it's not going to do any good. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's all word of mouth here, so spread the word. Share, please. The music, the writing, the podcast, everything. Help me out. We're on page 161, which is chapter 14. Our hero, Stanton Wheelhouse III, has ensconced himself in Greenwich Village proper. And he's hanging out with a Jewish bloke named Benjamin. And they're in a coffee shop. They're getting ready to... Stanton's going to play his first gig here in New York in this coffee shop. So here we go. I'm going to turn the level up a hair. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, chapter 14. At the coffee shop, I played my first song and was rewarded with tepid applause. Adjusting levels one more time. 12 people had shown up, 3 of whom were Ben, Chaim, and the girl behind the bar. I played a second song, and a man got up to walk out when I finished. He was clapping while he did so, but his manner was blasé. I was distraught, but undaunted. The captain had taught my father to find a solution when confronted with a problem, and my father had given me the same lesson. I think I'm playing this show too early, I said. The cafe was small enough not to require a PA. My shows never started before 9 in New Orleans. Thinking I was about to quit, a couple stood up and started walking toward the door. Wait, I said, I'm still going to play. I want to talk to you guys for a little bit. I'll play all night long. Okay, said the man, who looked to be in his early 30s. Holding his lady's hand, he led her back to their seats. I said, I thought we could get to know each other and maybe some more people will show up. People don't expect a show to start this early, do they? Not in the village, the same man said. Why did you come? I asked. My wife was here this morning and she felt you showed some promise. And what do you think so far? I asked. Not bad. Stop there, I said, and got a cheap laugh. I want to introduce the man who made this possible. His name is Benjamin. I have no idea what his last name is. I looked in Ben's direction. Ben stood up and smiled. Over the hearty applause from the girl behind the coffee bar, he said, Last name is Epstein, Stanton. Nice to meet you. I think it should be Epstein, actually. Last name is Epstein, Stanton. Nice to meet you. I strummed my guitar softly and said, Ben's welcomed me to New York, and I can't thank him enough. The intimacy was working in my favor now. The door opened with the chime of a bell, and 3 people I recognized from that morning entered. Yes, the crazy man's here like he said he would be, I sang in an affected voice over my chords, and everyone smiled. It was going better now. I want to play my newest song for you guys, I said, playing my Gibson softly. I wrote it on the way up here, in Newport News. The female half of the couple who had almost left applauded loudly, and I looked their way. The lady said, I'm from Newport News. The best thing about little shows like this is the interaction with the audience that can't take place in an arena. I said, Welcome to New York City, and got another laugh. I played for a few minutes, smiling warmly at the people kind enough to show up so far. As I was saying, I continued, I was driving through Newport News, and I saw this giant concrete arch. I looked at the lady, and she was nodding furiously with a big smile on her face. I never saw anything like it, I said, so I pulled over and got out to take a closer look. Conveniently, there was a plaque there which gave me the lowdown. It's a monument to our American fighting men. That arch has seen hundreds of thousands of young soldiers go to war and return. Well, most of them came back, but not all. I continued the chords from Eternal Flame for a couple minutes, humming the vocal melody. I sensed all of us coalescing like a tribe around a campfire. Back on Bourbon Street, I saw a lot of military men, mostly Navy. I was always fascinated by their tattoos. Eagles, flags, pin-ups. I stopped playing for a beat, but picked back up. I was sailing on blind instinct. I hummed through a few more rounds of chord changes, playing at first soft, then progressively louder, harder. I brought the music down until my strumming was just a whisper. I got my first tattoo today. The audience, although small, was engaged, and I could feel their interest heighten. The bandage is still on it there on my left arm. I'd love to show it to you, but I'm playing and all. The audience said, "Ah." "Don't worry," I said. My new buddy Ben Epstein got the same tattoo as me. And I bet you wouldn't think that Ben's dad over there next to him has a tattoo. Chaim smiled, slightly confused, and Ben beamed proudly. I played the chord progression for a while, adding single-string runs and arpeggio flourishes to prove I was no novice on my instrument. I was in no hurry, knowing the later the night became, the more likely a crowd would develop. I thought I could hold the current audience captive in the meantime. It was a challenge, and I was self-aware enough to understand that. Most performers just do their thing and drift like jellyfish in the surf, hoping for something good to happen. I was never like that after I got to the village. I was a shark, or maybe a barracuda. Whatever kind of fish I was always a genuine and honest fish. I have to add that. While the things in the last few paragraphs were happening, I noticed something. The audience members were on the edge of their seats. Later, I would write in my journal, "Lesson learned. Build anticipation when performing." "Who wants to see Chaim's tattoo?" I shouted, wishing I had a PA. My limited experience using amplification in New Orleans was enough to make me notice how strenuous it was performing without it. Members of the crowd said, "Yes." Ben said something in his father's ear, and the old man rolled up the sleeve of his shirt. He stood up proudly, almost defiantly. Any undeserved sense of shame he held inside was gone for the moment, and he presented his left forearm as if he was holding an invisible shield. I saw only the backs of heads, and I was proud to be an American at that moment. That's an identification tattoo from Auschwitz," I said. Tears fell from Ben's eyes as he peeled the bandage from his own left forearm and stood next to Chaim. And the two men displayed their indelible markings. The son put his right arm around his father. "In case you can't read it," I said, "Ben's tattoo says 043045. That's the date Hitler died. I've got the same tattoo." There wasn't a dry eye in the house, if you'll excuse the cliché. "I came up with the idea for our tattoos," I continued, "but I had no idea what day Hitler died. Guess who I asked?" "Chaim!" everyone yelled, and happy laughter overwhelmed any sadness. I launched into Eternal Flame and played it with all the emotion my young body could generate. Chaim and Ben sat down, and members of the audience made their way over to them to shake their hands during the song. The old man was overcome by the show of support. The Holocaust survivors never got their parade when the war ended. They were somehow expected to recover after all the abuse they suffered and all the family and friends who were murdered by the godless Nazis. And they did recover. They are the living embodiment of the human spirit. I fell into the tunnel, and it was deep. I improvised live for the first time, adding layers of emotion to my song. Finally, this much-extended version of Eternal Flame had run its course and ended in slow, finger-picked chords. I sat down on the stool behind me, stunned at the depth of the tunnel I was emerging from. If I was a diver returning to the surface, I would have had the bends, Exuberant applause filled the cafe. The man who had almost left with his wife rushed up to me. "Stanton, take a break while I use the phone, please." I stood up and said, "I'm taking a 15-minute break to compose myself. I'll be playing many more songs, so please don't leave." Nobody applauded now. They were all in shock. They had been dragged into the tunnel with me. The ultimate accomplishment of a performer, whether actor, poet, or musician. Okay, I'm going to stop there for this episode. Like I started out in the beginning, trying to keep them around 15 minutes. Easy digestion size for you during your work day, when you're on the train, you're on the bus, you're on the toilet, you're at lunch, you're on the toilet after lunch, whatever. Listen to my podcast and share it with people, please. I need your help. Drop me a line at paperbackrocker@live.com. Find my books on Amazon by searching for my name, Matt Severson, Syverson. I have not legally changed my name to Paperback Rocker, although I am considering it. Thanks for the show of support from all those who reached out to me during the hurricane. Wendy, Jake, Marie, Ben, James, and Mark. If any of you happen to be listening, you know who you are. Thank you. And I will see you soon with episode 85, containing volume 29 of the novel Blue Whiskey.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.